Sending sensitive data across public networks means routing it through a universally hostile environment, where interception is a guarantee, not a possibility. To survive this transit, the modern web relies on HTTPS. This is HTTP layered directly over Transport Layer Security, or TLS. You might still hear people call it SSL, but that predecessor was entirely deprecated years ago. This diagram shows what TLS actually guarantees: a secure connection built on three non-negotiable pillars: confidentiality, integrity, and authentication. Confidentiality is achieved by encrypting the data so observers cannot read it. Integrity detects tampering in transit using message authentication codes and authenticated encryption schemes. Authentication proves you are talking to the intended server, verified through digital certificates. The current standard, TLS 1.3, is a structural redesign of this entire process. It mandates better baseline security by explicitly removing outdated cryptographic practices that led to historical breaches. The mathematical ideal of a protocol only protects you if it is deployed correctly. To secure a network, we must master both theoretical cryptography and physical operational deployment. Symmetric encryption presents an immediate paradox. Both the client and the server need the exact same key to communicate, but they cannot transmit that key across the open internet in plaintext. This sequence diagram illustrates the legacy TLS 1.2 solution. It requires a two-round-trip handshake. First, the client and server exchange hello messages to negotiate which cipher suites they support, and only then do they execute the actual key exchange. This two-trip process is inefficient. The strict sequential separation between agreeing on how to communicate and actually generating the cryptographic keys introduces measurable latency before any real data moves. TLS 1.3 collapses this process. The new structure merges the negotiation and key exchange phases into a single round trip, completing the setup in half the time. It achieves this speed because the client now calculates key share guesses and sends them embedded directly inside its initial client hello message. For repeat clients, TLS 1.3 pushes this optimization even further with zero round-trip resumption, allowing clients to send encrypted data immediately without waiting for a new handshake. However, zero RTT introduces severe replay attack vulnerabilities. An attacker could capture and resend that initial data packet. Engineers must explicitly prevent this early data from triggering non-idempotent operations, like database writes or financial transactions. Latency wasn't the only flaw. TLS 1.3 intentionally deprecated vulnerable cryptographic primitives, specifically targeting static RSA key exchanges. The protocol now permits only one mandatory key exchange mechanism: ephemeral Diffie-Hellman. Look at this timeline. Ephemeral Diffie-Hellman guarantees forward secrecy. This means that if an attacker compromises a server's long-term private key today, they cannot use it to decrypt any historical traffic they recorded in the past. Under the older, static RSA model, a single key compromise in the future would retroactively expose years of previously recorded encrypted data. We saw exactly how dangerous this was during the 2014 Heartbleed memory disclosure. Because static keys were widely used, a server memory leak meant years of intercepted traffic instantly became decryptable, forcing major institutions to shut down public access entirely. By mandating ephemeral Diffie-Hellman, TLS 1.3 enforces forward secrecy. It permanently neutralizes the retroactive threat posed by memory leaks like Heartbleed. Confidentiality secures transit, but perfect encryption is useless if you are sending data to a verified imposter. This is the domain of authentication. This digital document is an X509 certificate. Its primary function is cryptographic binding. It officially connects a specific public key to a verified domain name identity. We trust this binding through a hierarchy shown here, called the chain of trust. The operating system ships with pre-installed root certificate authorities. The root signs an intermediate CA, and that intermediate signs the leaf certificate on your web server. A common operational failure occurs when a server only sends the leaf certificate and omits the intermediate. While some browsers cache intermediates and might still load the page, stricter clients like curl will see a broken chain and silently drop the connection. Certificates also come in different validation levels, from domain validation to extended validation. Today, these are largely legacy user experience distinctions. They require deeper vetting by the CA, but they do not alter the underlying cryptography. For most infrastructure, engineers should default to automated 90-day domain validation certificates, like those from Let's Encrypt. Short, automated lifespans remove the high risk of human error from the renewal pipeline. Certificate expiration is predictable, but it leaves an operational blind spot. If a private key is compromised months before the certificate expires, the client needs a way to know the key is no longer safe. The original solution was certificate revocation lists. CAs published lists of bad certificates, but these grew incredibly bloated. They updated far too slowly, so browsers stopped checking them. The industry moved to the Online Certificate Status Protocol, or OCSP. The client pauses the handshake to ask the CA if the certificate is still valid. This adds severe latency and creates a privacy leak, exposing the user's browsing destination directly to the CA. Worse, OCSP suffers from a fatal soft fail vulnerability. If the CA's responder server is offline or unreachable, most browsers will permit the connection anyway, making the entire security check theatrical. The definitive architectural solution to this problem is OCSP stapling. With stapling, the server proactively fetches its own signed revocation status from the CA on a regular schedule. It then staples that cryptographic proof directly to the TLS handshake, eliminating the client's need to contact the CA at all. OCSP stapling provides hard revocation guarantees without sacrificing the one-round-trip performance gains of TLS 1.3, making it a mandatory configuration for serious infrastructure. Even with perfect protocol design, transit security is frequently undone by how organizations route traffic behind their own perimeter. Standard industry practice is TLS termination. Look at this topology. The encrypted connection terminates at the edge, usually at an application load balancer or reverse proxy. From there, the traffic is frequently routed internally from the load balancer to the backend VPC origin servers in raw, plaintext HTTP. Anyone with unauthorized access to that internal network segment can observe the plaintext traffic in transit. Relying on perimeter security completely breaks the assumption of end-to-end encryption. To operate in a zero-trust environment, architecture requires TLS re-encryption, or mutual TLS, where internal services cryptographically authenticate and encrypt traffic between each other. Moving back to the edge, there is also a critical vulnerability window before the HTTPS connection is even established. Active attackers use this window for downgrade attacks, forcing the user's initial request onto plaintext HTTP. The Strict Transport Security, or HSTS header, mitigates this. It instructs browsers to exclusively use HTTPS for a given domain, closing the man-in-the-middle window before the first connection is made. Additionally, even with TLS 1.3, the server name indication, or SNI, leaks the requested hostname in plain text during the initial handshake, meaning network observers can still see which sites a user visits. A padlock icon in the browser guarantees transit security to the edge. It does not protect against internal lateral movement, and it does not fix initial downgrade vectors. Modern web transport is an inseparable fusion of protocol optimization and strict operational configuration. TLS 1.3 is the baseline, guaranteeing forward secrecy and latency reduction. But this requires infrastructure with automated renewal, active OCSP stapling, and deliberate internal TLS termination. Relying on legacy configurations, ignoring internal plaintext routing, or omitting strict transport headers is architectural negligence. Upcoming standards like encrypted client hello will eventually patch the remaining metadata leaks. Until then, engineers must build defensively around existing blind spots. Cryptographic protocols provide the theoretical math required for security. It is ultimately the systems engineer who is responsible for building the lock.